Hi, good morning everybody. This लगता है 2 साल में जो है घर में बैठे बैठे आवाज भी बंद हो गई सबकी. Hi, good morning everybody. That's still better. We were welcoming people on stage and we were welcoming people on the dais, but there were claps for as if nothing was happening. So next 5 minutes yoga session. Let's clap for ourselves. Yeah. Anish, what is your suit size? What is your suit size? 42. How many of you are here 42 regular? Stand up, because the best guy standing up is going to get a Savile Row suit from Anish's wardrobe. What will he do in its wardrobe, yeah? Yeah? Anyhow, you have changed to casual being human, but you want somebody to be dressed formal for the next occasion. But thank you very much, Images, for making this fantastic occasion, for getting everybody here. After I don't know how many years, Amitabh, 2 years? Yeah, and this is not only Indian, local, Renaissance, Powai, but this is also Switzerland and Delhi, both. Hi, Sandeep. Hi, William. Look at that. Whenever I ask you all to stand up, Sandeep and William, please be careful. Don't stand up, because I know how you all are dressed up. Yeah? By mistake, if you stand up and then we know you're in your pajamas. But what a wonderful gathering we have. All the tables are all full, the chairs are all occupied, and we have the Phygital convention, and we have what? Amitabh, 223 people in the room, 100 outside, and 1 million somewhere there. Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here. And it's wonderful to have this Phygital, Sandeep there. Oh, before I forget, can we clap for Sandeep? I mean, Sandeep, an Indian retailer from India, heading Bata, and now heading global. And we're going to also welcome one more person after some time, because this is the side of our country, yeah? But Sandeep, जो भी सीखा हम ही लोगों से सीखा आपने, हाँ?
बिल्कुल राकेश जी, उसका कोई डाउट ही नहीं है.
Yeah, look at this last, Amitabh, how many years of Images? 30 years of Images. So we have worked hard to put Sandeep on Switzerland map, yeah? Wonderful, wonderful. So let's start. We'll keep this very live. It's not about me asking questions or having a panel discussion. I want all of you to occupy and be part of this. So there are not 5 chairs, but 200 chairs. Raise your hands if you want to ask a question in between. We'll try to see how we can make it very lively, so that, and for next 90 minutes, can you keep your phone aside? Yeah, don't look at your phone, yaar. Koi phone nahi karne wala hai. In fact, you know what happened? In my building, there's a couple who actually got COVID after 2 shots. And so husband was that side and wife was this side, and they said, we're so happy, inside the home, but apart for 15 days. Now that's COVID, yeah? And I have another friend of mine who also got COVID, and he's in the room. And the wife is saying, it's horrible, yeah. This guy outside is as bad as this guy inside the room. So that's what COVID is, but let's have fun. Let me start with you, Alvira. You are the lady in the house. COVID has done a lot of things to brands, and has done a lot of things to retailers. How has being human changed? I mean, being human has to remain being human now also and ever. But what are the changes you have seen in the last 15 months, 18 months?
Okay, so as you know, we just did our transition in 2020, and as soon as we did it, COVID hit us. So we were absolutely not prepared for how to move on digitally. Well, what we did is we kind of got in touch with our customers via SMS and email, and we did video conferencing with them with our clothing, and we took the brand to their houses.
Wow.
So what we did is we gave them a personal experience of what they wanted, the buyer experience, consumer experience at their own houses. So that's how we,
So you took
that
being
forward.
human to the human beings in the house.
Houses,
Oh,
that's
wow.
right.
I hope this attitude remains forever for us. I know we are becoming phygital, we only talk digital, but I think that human part of human should remain through and through as we go forward. Yeah. Damodar, a lot of digital work happened. Okay, Reliance is opening 800 stores or 1,200 stores. Ajio is all over the place. Tell me the 2 or 3 differences you've seen in the consumer in the last 18 months. How has consumer changed? And if you can talk about the Gen X, the millennials, the baby boomers, and look at the changes that have happened in the last 12 months in them.
No, I think consumer has clearly moved digital. In the first phase, she had to move digital, and it forced all of us to accelerate all our plans and I must say and confess that as large retailers, both in fashion as well as in electronics and supermarket business, we had our plans to go omni-channel. They were well laid out plans. Everything was progressing, but the whole thing, instead of 3 years, became 3 months because the consumer moved completely digital in that round to. What I see now is this consumer has turned seamlessly omni-channel. And fortunately for us, all our businesses have also been as physical as digital now. So I think now the place is in harmony. We were behind the consumer, now we are in sync with her, and this seems to work well. And fortunately for us, and this is something that I can share here, when the same consumer buys both physically and digitally from us, she buys 40% more from us as a total banner. That's the lesson. Forced hand to acceleration, but I think we are in a beautiful place and more in sync with the consumer of today, I think.
Wow. So Indian consumer has gone absolutely digital and physical, and 40% more. Sandeep, is that what's happening around the globe also? I mean, are you seeing similar kind of changes in the Indian consumers as well as the global consumers?
No, absolutely, Nagesh. That is what is happening. I will have to say that I think the Indian consumer right now is pretty much in the middle. We are not leading the pack, but neither are we bringing up the rear. There are markets which are significantly ahead where consumers have moved earlier. But I think that what India is being able to bring, the omni-channel execution that Damodar was also referring to, is probably among the leaders in the world. The ability to be able to use the stores in a completely seamless manner is probably top of the line as far as India goes.
Sandeep, that was wonderful. Yeah? You made a statement and I don't think people have registered. Did you hear right? Sandeep says probably India is ahead of the curve on adopting omni-channel. और हम लोग ऐसे बैठे हुए हैं यार अपने लिए तो ताली बजा लो. At least be happy that we are crossing the bar. Yeah? And not only that, a lot of people cross the bar. Huh? Sandeep, हम लोगों ने केवल आपको prepare नहीं किया था देश में भेजने के लिए. Here is another guy with us. Here is Sanjeev Mohanty, who is our Levi's guy, our Indian retailer who's going to head the globe going to US. Sanjeev, all the best. Yeah? Yeah, I think we are all very proud of what the retail industry has done over the years. And it's very, very interesting to see the whole movement. And I agree with you. But one of the questions, William, I want to ask you. I mean, you dabble around multiple categories and you have seen the whole transformation of phygital to digital. Does the humanity or does retail require a crisis to change? I mean, all of us wanted to go omni-channel, but we were moving 3%, 4%, 5%. Suddenly we become 30%. So do we really require a crisis? And how have you seen this crisis convert Fab India into an omni-channel player? And how are you seeing the various category plays happening across your range?
Thanks, Nagesh. I'm sorry I'm not there with everybody in person. It's a good question, Nagesh, in that what omni-channel and e-commerce do is that they offer the consumer an endless amount of choice. And that choice is something that the consumers have now been addicted to. So to go back into a physical store is going to be a very big transition for consumers to make, because they are going to see if physical stores don't redefine themselves and become something completely different, the consumer is going to go back into a physical store and see nothing but limitations. Limitations in terms of the number of SKUs available, limitations in terms of, just the choice, the variety, the depth of inventory. Because let's face it, physical stores cannot compete if you go head to head with e-commerce. It's like putting a bullock cart and a car on the same road. Wow. The bullock cart will always lose. The question for us, as we are more conventional retailers, is how do you pivot the brick and mortar business into a space which is exciting for the consumer? And that is, if you can answer that question, Nagesh, you will have won the historical jackpot, because that's the question that everybody is thinking. It's uppermost in everybody's minds, because customers are going back to retail stores, but they're sensing a bit of disappointment. that, you know, they've been spoiled by e-commerce. And if you can give us the answers to that, I will be your devotee.
Wonderful. So we'll give a gift voucher from Fab India for somebody who has an answer and a Savile Row suit of 42 size. If that's the
Yes.
lady who's going to win, probably we'll get a nice clothing from Being Human. Yeah? Wonderful. Tushar, I want to repeat the question to you. Do you require a crisis for the kind of change that has happened within us? And you have seen global operations in Dubai and you have seen operations in India. How have you seen the consumers change between Dubai, between here, and whatever insights you've got?
The consumer is the same. I think the way they are buying and what they are buying has changed. We saw during COVID, a lot of people are spending a lot of time at their house. They are sitting in their home and looking, the curtains need to be changed, the sofas need to be changed. So we saw a lot of soft furnishing happening. We also do e-commerce sites in Dubai called Sixth Street. And in a month, we sold 3,000 coffee machines because people couldn't go out and buy coffee, so they bought coffee machine, baking goods, things that you would not have thought of it before. That market went up. The other change that we saw in retail is, I'm talking first wave and second wave, being more specific on that. We saw during the first wave, people were just buying at leisure, slippers, something to wear at home. The black and brown shoes were not selling. People were going in their gym, so they were buying sports shoes. Second wave, and after that, when the industry, when the offices opened up, we saw people coming and starting buying black and brown again. So there will be, people are coming back, but not at the same force. One other thing that we saw is there's a pent-up demand. Less people are walking in, but they're buying more because they haven't bought for 6 months. I also believe, I'm just going to add one more thing, I also believe that till travel doesn't open up completely globally, there will be domestic demand happening. When travel opens up, the malls and the e-commerce and all of us will have to be careful. And the last thing that I will reply is, yes, crisis pushed us to do e-commerce. We were 2-3%. We're 30% now. We believe it will remain between 25-30%. Some brands are 50% because they have less retail presence because they're new brands. But we see that growth coming, but overall the brand business has gone up. There is a higher consumption overall, online and offline, and we're catering to different customers, even in tier 2, tier 3, which we would never have sold before. So there's a massive, massive change. And yes, crisis did put us in a situation to innovate and to change. Thank you.
If this is the kind of change we are seeing, what are the category performances you're seeing? What is the shift in categories? Like Tushar said, home is doing better. But are there other categories also? And from there, can you go back to the consumer behavior? Well, I do agree that consumer, what he or she is buying has changed. But I also believe that the behavior has changed. I also believe that the way they want to look at the wardrobe has changed. I also believe that the number of customers who will come onto the stores will come down. So footfall will not come back. And maybe what William said, that we have to have a new model. So just talk to us about the category and go back to the consumer for us.
Sure. So two things. I think you asked me two questions. One is which categories are doing well and whether the footfalls will come back, right? So let me answer the first question. From a category perspective, very clearly, home as a category, household products, kitchen items, home decor, plants, soft furnishing, like Anurag mentioned, these are categories which are doing exceptionally well. Within apparel space, athleisure is doing well. Innerwear, lingerie is a category which is growing double digits. Athleisure, of course, all brands in the athleisure space are doing very well. So these are some category movements within apparel. We're also seeing a lot of upside happening in travel accessories. It's quite unintuitive, but that's the kind of numbers we are seeing in those accessories, right? Now, coming to footfalls and how we are moving to digital. Footfall was a challenge 3-4 months back. But it's quite surprising, and you'll be quite surprised. We started recovery happening in August. September was even better. This festive has beaten all sort of expectations. Forget recovery. We're talking of like-for-like growth in footfalls as well as revenue. And I'm sure all brands are seeing this across the board. Indians bought gold like never before this Dhanteras. So, all jewelry shops, all gold stores were like packed. So, I think footfalls are back. Business is back. Yes, last year, digital as a percentage was significantly higher. That's because most of the stores were shut. But with almost 100% of our stores operational, all days, BAU days, digital as a percentage is coming down, not because digital is going down, because retail has bounced back significantly. So I think it's good news. Digital is growing, retail is growing faster. So I think it's good news for all of us.
Wonderful. I just want to go to William. William, I want to ask you this question about the consumer becoming more Indian in nature and wanting to buy local, especially with all this China thing happening, wanting to be Swadesh and things like that. Have you seen that kind of a behavior change in the consumer, wanting to buy more Indian brands, Indian production?
Yes, I think that, Nagesh, there are two things happening. One is there's, at the macro level, there's a shift to being proud of one's heritage and traditions and celebrating one's festivals and and doing so in wearing traditional clothes, not trying to ape Western houses, using traditional fabrics in their houses. So that, I think, is the macro change. Within that macro change, there's a micro change, which is that local festivals have become important to people. Festivals are now being celebrated, which we hadn't even, were not conscious of a few years ago, but they have taken, a key role. And as retailers, our goal is that we have a, multiplicity of festivals that start sort of in this year. They started in early August and they will run through the end of December. And the interesting thing is, how do you connect with the customer? These are opportunities where you can connect with the customer's heart when they celebrate with their families, with their loved ones. And it's really important for us as a physical retailer to make that connection deeply, because e-commerce, one of the advantages of physical retail is you can reach a person in a different way than when you do on e-commerce. So that's both a challenge and an opportunity for us.
Wonderful. I think this also gives us huge opportunity to create new experiences in the store. Damodar, you all are opening so many stores. How is tier 3, tier 4 and the smaller towns behaving? And do we see a different India emerging? So for retailers, should we have to plan Mumbai, the top cities separately, tier 4 separately? And will it be a different country for us in the way they will behave and the way we will assort the merchandise there?
Nagesh, but before that, I would have liked to, that you asked the category question to me also, because you asked only the fashion guys. Because everybody believes, khane peene mein, what is the difference? Everybody is eating the same thing. But a couple of things.
I've got influenced by Swiggy and Zomato, yaar. They are bringing all exotic food into the house now.
So, two things. One, families are more together. More cooking is happening at home. Therefore, we see a clear trend in upgradation of things that people buy from supermarkets as groceries for their homes, because cooking at home is now entertainment as well. It happened a lot during the first wave, but some of those habits continue. So for supermarkets, it meant premiumization, it meant selling more ingredients. The other bit is, I think smaller joys have a lot more meaning. People are celebrating together. William mentioned about festivals. More micro festivals are getting celebrated. One factoid to share is that there is also risk of buying from people are careful about where they're buying from. One factoid is this Diwali we sold 90% more packaged and branded Indian sweets.
Wow.
Compared to what we sold not last year, 2019. So there are shifts that are taking place because families are together, bonding has increased, and cooking at home has changed. So I just thought I will mention that.
There is a contra to this. You are saying more Indian sweets sold, and most of the men here have said they have lost weight in the last 6-7 months, including me. So this is contra. But you are saying less of chocolates and more of rasgullas. Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah? Oh, that also reminds me, how many men have started cooking in the last 12 months? Very bad. Yeah, just 5 of you. God help. Yeah, I thought many more men would have started cooking. Yeah, sorry, Damodar, please go ahead.
You mentioned about big towns, small towns, and
Yeah.
as we expand. And yes, more than half of our, let me take the banner, smart superstores, more than half of our stores are in small town India. Even on JioMart, about 60% of our orders are beyond the top 15 towns, even for grocery. So yeah, the consumption is a lot deeper when it comes to supermarket category in smaller towns. We are seeing that happen. We are seeing premiumization take place. Also, lives are simpler. People know that they know that the same store is servicing them, whether they walk into the store or whether they're ordering digitally from us. So on the whole, we see small towns deeper in terms of demand and what we are selling. Obviously, small towns mean lower occupancy and operating costs, so therefore it's a juicier opportunity as we see. And we are pushing the envelope and saying, can we go down to a lower prop strata? And we've hit towns which are 50,000 and 70,000 population, and yet we are putting big box supermarkets there.
This is a good question to ask, to say big box. So if online and offline is going to work together, do you really require big box, Dave? I mean, don't you think we should be doing smaller boxes and go into 700 stores, 800 stores, go into every district?
Yeah. That's something that absolutely you hit the nail on the head. So that's something we're evaluating very, very seriously. See, there are two parts to it. One is the sales part, reaching consumers, more checkpoints with consumers. The second is the brand experience. I think the big box is needed for the brand experience, but the number of big boxes can reduce. So for example, in a metro, I may still have 4 or 5 big boxes so that I deliver the experience, but have multiple smaller formats so that I reach more consumers, more pin codes and more areas. So that's something, the same city. Then tier 2, like we are discussing now, that's another large opportunity, and digital is always there to reach to consumers directly. So it's a multi-pronged approach. So I think all the formats will survive together and are needed together so that you deliver experience as well as touch points.
Sandeep, let me come to you.
Can I add?
Yeah, Damodar,
Sorry.
please.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
add? I think it's popular consultant and global speak to tick off big boxes as thing of the past. But I say it as a practicing retailer in supermarkets. I think there is the upside, if your model is working right, the upside on a full-blown supermarket that is theater of choice in India is still very much there, and we're going to see a long run where these will flourish. The other part is I don't really care because I'm a hyper-local digital retailer as well. So it's my customer chooses to go between physical and digital. It's the same real estate, it's the same store that I'm using. So that's my way of balancing. But I think the share of mind and the share of buzz of digital shopping is far higher than the share of market and the share of growth, because there is a lot of growth to be had for the physical retail as well in India.
Yeah, naturally it is going to happen, because don't forget, we are sitting in the conference room talking phygital, and one of our fellow online retailers has listed today. I mean, I think we need to clap for Nykaa. You know, shares have opened at 2,000 plus, so it's a 100,000 crore company in terms of valuation. But we can't be just chasing valuation, because if you chase, then you can't have big box, because big box may not be as profitable. So you have to also look at the trading density of the store, sales per square foot, margin per square foot, all that nonsense that we actually look at it. But anyhow, Dave, coming back to you on the same question, on the big box profitability as we go forward, because Pushpa is sitting here, a lot of people from the mall industry here. The question to them after you will be that will still we be opening the 2 million square feet malls, 3 million, or will we be opening the 300,000 square feet, 100 malls? But I'll come to her after that, for you.
Yeah, I think if you're focused and if we get the catchment right, if we get the consumer understanding right, we are still pursuing big boxes, right? So as of now, we are focused on the top 6 metros. We are opening stores in the tier 1 and the tier 2, like the Lucknows, Kanpurs, and surprisingly, the SPF, exactly what you just said, SPF, margin per square feet, MPF, it holds. So there is a clear story narrative for big box, but one just needs to be a little careful. If you go overboard, obviously, a city can't take too many big boxes. So as long as we're very careful, choose the right malls, choose the right catchment, high streets, I think there is a very big story for big boxes. That's number one. Number two, to build the brand experience, the big box is super critical because the consumer goes to the nearest store for day-to-day purchase, but when it comes to an occasion, a festive or a large occasion purchase, the consumer is gravitating to a big box. When you look at the SPF, MPF of like a Diwali, like a sale, like a large occasion, big boxes deliver far better than high street and smaller format. So I think both are required. Both are required for the long term. I'm not saying one versus the other. Small boxes are very, very important for growth. Having said that, big boxes are delivering experience. And maybe that's the reason why the customer is going for the same brand, small format. So
I will sometime in the next 5 minutes talk to William and you of defining this word experience. Because when I go to stores are so clinically kept. There's a guy standing there. Everything's beautiful. Assortment is there. Availability is there. So to me, what is the difference between an A store experience and a B store and a C store? I'll come back to you. But Pushpa, big malls, big malls to small malls in many more stores. What will happen now into the mall industry?
Well, I can tell you this, that first of all, it's a lovely panel, and I really am enjoying hearing everyone. The mall industry also, like everyone else, we've really done a deep dive to see what will happen in future. How much of online will stay and the growth of online. It's great to see the pent-up demand come back, but as Tushar rightly said, once the international travel comes back, and global travel is normal in the next year or so, it'll be interesting to see the play. What are we doing? I can speak for DLF and I can speak for a few of my...
Also for the industry. Do you
for
see
the
industry opening many more malls?
I do think that the industry will look at developing malls in a very interesting, different way. We in DLF, we have, in fact, after this, I'm going to be talking about it. We have understood that what we bring to the table is premium residential developments. And the premium residential developments that we have, that's done very well. The consumers over there are looking for something in the neighborhood, in a walking distance for their convenience. And so we are going to be growing 200-300 square feet plazas, premium neighborhood plazas, around our premium residential development. That's a clear growth strategy for us. And I'm told that the industry is also gravitating towards such a requirement, and that will grow across the tiers, tier 2, tier 3 cities. I do see this to happen. But will this mean that, Nagesh, we will not develop big boxes or big malls? I don't think so. We are waiting and watching to see how much of the pent-up demand will sustain and what will happen. I'm already thinking and talking about a large property that we will launch sometime next year once the market is ready. Yes, it's not going to be as large as what it used to be in terms of growth numbers, but it's an interesting take that we are having now, that convenience is a huge plus for consumers. So to develop thought-out properties from a convenience standpoint will be important.
Okay.
At the same time, experience is also important.
So not necessarily destination malls. Sandeep, you have seen the length and breadth of the world in the last few years as you have moved in. Now, is this a new phenomenon you are seeing in India, everybody wanting to still rush into stores? I was told bestseller 70 stores, Tushar said he's opening stores. But other side of US where Sanjeev has decided to go, people are saying malls closed, malls being bought over by Amazon to convert into warehouse. So what do you see of the brick and mortar scenario as you go forward? And this whole thing of phygital, brick and mortar plus online working across the globe, wherever you can connect us.
So Nagesh, I think the recalibration of the real estate is happening everywhere. I think it's happening in India, it's happening in Europe for us, and it's happening in Southeast Asia as well. We are having to look at the assortment that we have. I agree with the panel, the big boxes will continue to stay there. But I think the reason why consumers were going there, which was very often to get the full range, now, as we talked about it, consumers have got used to having the great choice on digital. So maybe that has become less of a driver, whereas the physical experience has become more of a driver. So hence the reason for each of the formats has changed. The other thing which is really changing for us is the merchandise in each of the stores have undergone a subtle but a significant change in many places. So tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, with consumers having gone back home, not having or not being able to come to the big towns to buy their higher end products, we've seen demand move up for that in the smaller towns. So there are changes which are happening all across the estate, and it is quite secular. This is happening across the world. We see this. I was in Kenya a few days ago, and I see that very similar playbook again happening in Kenya as well. So pretty secular trend, I think, around the world to have to relook and recalibrate our real estate and also the merchandise in each of the stores.
So thank you, Sandeep. I think it's very, very clear that the opportunity is large. In fact, looks like the opportunity is much larger than what it was before the pandemic. Because as brick and mortar retailers, we were only limited to opening brick and mortar in some cities. But now as a digital retailer, we can go across to smaller towns and things like that. William, I mean, you've been in the business for decades now. I have been also in the business for decades. The retailers who have been brick and mortar retailers, do you see the mindset to convert into the new digital way? I mean, with a legacy ERP system, the nimbleness and the agile competition that we see versus our own, do we have that mindset? And what do we need to do to bring that mindset to become really omni-channel and change the way we operate?
So Nagesh, let me correct one myth, because we've all bought into a mythology. And as you know, mythologies are not stories based on fact. There is a very disproportionate and unequal distribution of capital away from traditional retailers and to e-commerce players. I was, in fact, with a traditional retailer, small retailer, extremely profitable business. They couldn't raise money. So I said, boss, add a few words. Say you're into digital disruption, Gen Z, millennial, and then you'll get the money. So this is just to illustrate the point that capital is gone a little bit crazy, in my opinion, and it's allocating in areas where actually many of these e-commerce companies, as Sandeep and all the others probably know, we all know in our hearts, these are not profitable businesses the way they are currently structured. But because capital is pouring in and it's ignoring traditional retailers, it's creating a very unequal playing field. So today, as someone said, if you really want to up your valuation, you pepper everything with lots of phrases like digital disruption, Gen Z, omni-channel. I mean, omni-channel is nothing more than having your warehouse linked to your tablet and having the guy in the store tell you this. So, but if you say that, it sounds very boring. If I say endless aisle, omni-channel, seamless delivery, all this, it ups your valuation. So sadly, there's the game of perception, which is being played. And then there's a game of reality. And at the end of the day, I think markets will eventually, as a wise person once said, I've forgotten the name, markets will eventually allocate money, will return to fundamentals. And when they return to fundamentals, it'll be interesting to see what the retail scenario looks then. Sadly, I think a lot of the retailers are facing, a lot of branded retailers are benefiting from the death of a lot of unbranded and smaller retailers. When I travel across the country now, I see hundreds and hundreds of small stores shutting down, people out of work. So that displacement is taking place, and it's ending up from an unbranded balance sheet to the branded balance sheet, which is picked up by the markets and lauded by the market. So frankly, I think before everybody congratulates themselves, we are seeing the death of millions and millions of small retailers and the movement to larger formats. And, that's something, one feels, I have mixed feelings about that, frankly.
Tushar, I want to come back to you on the same thing. I mean, as a traditional retailer, are we all ready to go into the new mindset where, let's say, we'll be 50% online in the full post-COVID era? Currently, 30% is because the physical has depressed business. I want you to talk about the mindset, the mind of the management, the owners, the promoters, versus the mindset of somebody. My mindset versus, let's say, Falguni's mindset.
So as they say, change is inevitable. If you're not going to change, you're not going to survive. The mindset, even for us as a company, took a long time to go online. Right? To understand that the online is a different beast. It is not retail in the same form. It's a different way to service customers. Returns are higher. For us, we got pushed into it. But a lot of retailers, especially the smaller guys, are not able to do that because they don't have access to the talent or the technology. We were able to create a 30-people team during COVID just for online. There's a team for reconciliation. There's a team for merchandising. There's a logistic team in the warehouse. We invested in it. With the mindset, you also have to see where the future is going. Traditional businesses globally have gone down. And if you're operating on 1 or 2 stores, saying, I'm going to be that jeweler who has been selling jewelry for 100 years and not going to make change, Tanishq will come and take your business away. If you are not going to do that. I'm just going to diverse, and I want to go back on the big box and mall box and the community stores that Pushpa talked about. Community malls globally have also worked very well, but you have to be very specific the brands you put in your community mall. Are you going to put a laundry? Are you going to put something that a supermarket, something that a person needs every day? It is not where you put your luxury brands. You have to be very careful on the mix. On the big box and small box, it depends on the big box, the price of the product, and what category you're selling that you can go in a big box in. You can do home, you can do lifestyle, you can do splash, you can do max as big box. Right? For us, we are a bridge to luxury. The productivity that we have globally in India is very low for the premium brands. To give you one simple example, one store of ours in a top mall in Dubai is equal to 12 stores sale in India. And the work is larger, and India as a market is huge.
But the population of India is also 20 times more than Dubai. And
It
the
is.
earning must be 25 times more, yaar.
It is, but be careful on the population.
Yeah.
What is the population living below the poverty line? What is the actual population? The first thing that international brands come, we tell them, they tell us 1.3 billion, I need 800 stores in India, we have 200 in New York, we have so much, we have 300 million population. I say, please land in Mumbai at 5 o'clock in the morning, sit down, come over to my house, I will show you around. And then when you go back, you come and they tell me, okay, I think 30 stores is more than enough for India. So it depends on the category and the price category when it comes to the big box. And the tier 2 also, it's very similar because the pricing, the purchasing power is very different. And no matter what everybody says here, what we have seen for our brands, the top 5 for the e-commerce are the top 5 metro cities. Then it is always a tier 2, tier 3.
Damodar, you work for Reliance Retail, the largest retailer in the country, and you also work for smaller, do some work for the Kiranas. I mean, the way what we are hearing from William and what we are hearing from others, do you think retail is going to become an elitist business in this country? People with capital and large forces to work with will actually become solid retailers in this country? And what will happen to the small retailers?
Before that, I was smiling at a curious change in narrative, Nagesh. Till 3 years back, we were all called modern retailers. And today, B.S. Nagesh is saying traditional retailers to the same set of people in the same business who are growing really well. I think, as William said, the behavior of capital and behavior of global thinking sometimes shift these narratives without us noticing them. We are modern retailers. We are agents of modernity. There is physical modern retail and there is digital modern retail. Some of us will move from physical modern retail to digital modern retail, and some of us will start as digital modern retail and say if you have to get real growth in the market, you got to go to physical. And both of us will need a mindset shift when we go to the other side. In the end, like our customer, all of us will have to be omni-channel. We will carry our own legacies, we will carry our own challenges, but the challenges are both sides.
So continue with this. Just tell me, what is the mindset required in this audience for the omni-channel play? And if there is an older mindset, what is required to be changed? Because it's not about money, it's also about mindset.
So It's also about being customer-centric. In my business, in my grocery business, I say the customer was always omni-channel even 20 years back. Half of grocery in the country was always home delivered. It's just that we said we are in the supermarket business. If you flip it and say, I want to think like the consumer wants home delivery all the time. And she has been having it, even the conventional small retailers that you mentioned have been servicing that demand. Only the means of doing it have changed. So no big deal. I think merely saying that, defining what business you are in, and if you're in the consumption business, you will be channel independent. I'm saying that even if you start as super app wala, you will need to learn to be supermarket wala. That's not a choice because the customer wants you to be like that. So I see it as a journey for all of us, but I don't see it as a big time challenge. We will do it because we are consumer business and our instincts are customer centric. So we shall end up doing it. About the smaller retailers, I think it's a phenomena, and I work closely on that front. Often less acknowledged. I think they have turned, I see them turning digital. I see them turning what is fashionably called omni-channel in a jiffy. They're all accepting digital payment. They're publishing their WhatsApp numbers on their shop boards, and our customer is happy just placing orders instead of the earlier phone call or a slip of paper. It's a WhatsApp order that is going. I believe they will adapt. They're entrepreneurs. They will adapt. They will learn to exploit all the things that we have to offer and will modernize. And our own interest, we will make the entrepreneur retailer of India. It's again a thing that is unique to India. We will make these entrepreneur retailers part of our ecosystem and make our play bigger. Many of us are taking a shot at that as well.
I know
Nagesh.
Dave and Tushar both have something to butt in, but what you're saying is absolutely right. They've just talked about this also in your next statement. Is it easier for those entrepreneurs to shift their mindset and become omni compared to our corporate structures and behemoth? Where to change from the legacy system to go next is a much more difficult thing. Go ahead.
Sure. So, see, currently, very few players have really understood omni-channel the way consumers look at it. For example, for all of us, omni-channel means I have a store, I have digital, I've got an e-commerce play, I've linked my warehouse. But for example, e-commerce has a separate setup, they have a separate operational team, there's a separate merchandiser, they're curating products, we have a separate team for brick and mortar. But what we don't think is, when a consumer walks into a store, I have a loyalty program in the store, right? So I buy something, I earn loyalty points. Now, can I use these points and redeem it in your e-commerce? Nobody is thinking in those lines. Today we are saying, oh, online is growing, I want to have an e-commerce site. So let me get sales. It's more sales-led. Nobody is thinking consumer journey. So I have bought it online. Why are the same points not applicable even in my store? I've got a cashback promo in the store. Why is that cashback promo not applicable online? So we are not thinking the consumer journey yet. So we are going behind sale, which is great. There's an opportunity and we're doing well. But we are not thinking end-to-end 360-degree consumer journey. Like, I bought it online. Why can't I just go to your nearest store and return it? Why should I wait for 2 days for a guy to come and pick it up from my house? So these kind of things is something, I'm not saying nobody's thinking about it, but we are not yet there. So when you say omni-channel mindset, that is, to me, in my mind, an omni-channel mindset. Thinking end-to-end, right from merchandising. First of all, why have two merchandisers? Right? Why should I have a merchandiser for brick and mortar? Why should I have a separate merchandiser for
only
online?
one for the customer, no?
Yeah, exactly. See, for example, today I have a store in a very premium mall, big box, very premium affluent catchment. I also have a store in Bareilly and Agra and tier 2 store. I'm buying merchandise separately. Why can't the same merchandiser buy even for online? Because the consumer is different there. So looking at it holistically, looking at the consumer journey is something we have traditionally not done. So therefore, to your next question, can an entrepreneur do it? Because he's going to start with no baggage. He is starting ground zero. So I think he may get it right faster compared to a traditional box. But I think both of us need to do it very fast.
Tushar, you have a point of view on this?
I agree with,
अरे don't agree यार. If everybody agrees to
I
everything,
agree
फिर
with
मजा
the
नहीं
holistic.
आएगा.
I agree with the holistic approach.
okay.
I agree with that journey being seamless. But we are traditional retailers. Okay, let me put it. We have been in this business for more than 20 plus years. For us, the journey was not easy, right? The journey for us was we have to do it. We tried to do it online, but we tried to do it in the same office with the same team of people, and that was a challenge. You're using the same person, looking at your balance sheet in the same way, not looking at your balance sheet or P&L the way e-commerce young entrepreneurs do today. We had to change the team. We had to create a new office, send the team out, get younger people in, saying, and treat them like a startup. Say, here is $1 million, go do e-commerce. We will support you with the product. We will not ask you the question, but please go achieve and come back to us. And they would say, don't ask me about the profit and don't look at it the way you look at your retail stores. The mindset has to change from the top. But I don't think you can do it with the same team. You can merge the team later, but you have to start with a separate team. 10, 15 people. You are a startup if you are doing what we are doing in retail after so many stores. It is difficult. I don't think it's an easy thing for us to do. And even if you look at e-commerce players, they are coming into retail. Right? They have opened retail stores. But they are 80-90% business is e-commerce, 10% is retail. For us, it's the other way around. They also need to change their mindset. You cannot run the stores like you run e-commerce. It's a two different thing. Yes, you need holistic approach. Your points should be transferable. You can change in the store. That will happen, but you need to start the journey.
But
and the mindset can change only
You're
after.
also saying the younger mindset. Okay, how many of you are here about 20? God help you all. Let me go to somebody who didn't raise your hand. You're not 20 yet. Yeah? You're 20, okay. You're 20 plus around. I earn from being human. Yeah, what do you think all these old guys are talking about? I know you manage the digital part of being human. You can be very honest. For this part, I'm asking Anish not to record. Okay, no recording, please. Jo bolna bolo yaar. Is that budhe log kya baat kar rahe hain? As somebody who's managing digital, what do you think? What's happening to the Gen Z? What's happening to the millennials? What's happening to the industry? Talk it out.
Okay, if I'm being completely honest, I agree with what William said, that with things like omni-channel, you can use fancy words and leave people awestruck or flabbergasted. But at the end of the day, it's the fundamentals that you really need to look about. Omni-channel is nothing but a well-connected company that allows flexible choices for its customers. And that's about what it is. And with digital, humans are really like creatures of habits. So like people don't like to change. That's why people stay loyal to brands. That's why people stay loyal to like patterns. But when people change, people don't like to change back. They stick with it. And whenever brands take time to adapt to change, that's when brands struggle. When brands stay on the ball and they keep changing with times, that's when brands actually keep succeeding time and time, wave and wave again. And when it comes to like the digital aspect, right? All digital has done is enhanced word of mouth. It's allowed you to connect with your customers internationally, personally to an extent, to showcase yourself inside out and to get to know them inside out. And all moving forward is about accepting and like welcoming that and allowing people to be able to like be free and comfortable being themselves and accommodating that as a brand.
क्या क्लैरिटी है यार? अरे ताली तो बजा दो यार हमारे आयान के लिए. हाँ? Tell me one thing. I know one boss is sitting here, one boss is sitting on the desk. How much of freedom do you get to operate being human as a digital boss?
Be honest.
Be honest, huh?
A lot of it.
A lot of it is political. Yeah.
No, I honestly, like, I don't think...
Okay, on a scale of 10, what independence do you get?
12.
On a scale of 10, he gets 10. On a scale of 10, he said he gets an independence of 12 to operate digital balance. Is it honest?
Yes, he does.
He's honest. सब लोग मिले जुले हैं यार. Actually, I should have planned it well. It didn't work. Yeah? Sandeep, let me come back to you. Where do you see the future of any of our companies who are sitting here? We said there's a huge opportunity. William said it is just not about valuation or it's about capital. Fundamentals of the business has to happen. We are saying the consumer is willing to spend more. Let's now go back and look at saying how does look for. For example, I don't know how many stores you have globally, Sandeep?
About 5,500.
5,500. So, okay, I don't think there's any analyst here. Do you think Bata can become a 10,000 store chain in the next 5 years? Is there an opportunity?
Nagesh, I think the parameters, such like numbers of stores, have probably become almost irrelevant in the current circumstances. It is not about new stores that you want to open and where you want to go. Yes, there will be geographies where you will want to open stores. There are other geographies where we are saying we don't need the number of stores we have. So I think, as I said earlier, we are recalibrating. The reality is, if you're a company like Bata, which is, in our 127 years, seen quite a lot of things happening, a lot of change. We've seen a couple of world wars. We've seen the whole Iron Curtain come up and come down. What has made you successful over so many years has, of course, been the fact that you've been able to adopt and adapt. The question is, how quick has that been in the past? And how quick a crisis like what we've just gone through makes you adapt. And I think that's the big change which has happened. In our normal scenario, we would have taken much longer. It would have been slow pace, and a traditional large company like us would have probably taken another 10 years to get fully onto the omni-channel bandwagon. The reality is you did that in probably 12 months. And that's what has changed. Finally, if you look at it for the future, you have to go back to the consumer. It's a bit of I'm not saying rocket science here or no great statements, but you have to go back to the consumer. And if you want to survive and continue to do well, you need to adapt to the consumer's need and what she's really asking for. And I think that's what is important for us, to listen, to innovate and adapt even faster. I think that was the one big change. You asked somebody in the beginning, what change happened in these last 24 months? What was the big change? I think the biggest change that we saw as a big company was we were much closer globally than we had ever been. We were not waiting for this annual conference for the linking of minds to come together. You were doing that almost every week. And second, you were really pushing to be innovative and adopt new things at a pace which we've never seen in our 125 years. So I think that's what has changed for us. The recognition that it is needed, and more importantly, recognition that we can do it. And that is a skill set, which I think I see very, very positively, and I see the future with a lot of hope and with a lot of positive sentiment.
Yeah, William, I just want to come to you with the words that Sandeep has spoken, and I think fantastic word: adapt, adopt, listening. With all this put together and the tools we have, how big is the opportunity for all of us sitting here? You can talk in terms of percentages, shares. How big can this team sitting here and the million people watching dream, especially sitting in India?
We are, I think, half the age of Bata. So, Sandeep is speaking from centuries of wisdom, having seen upheavals, transformations, technology, everything. And it's really amazing to see that it's today, I feel, when I see a Bata store, that it is as relevant today as it was when I was a kid. And it's an amazing brand because it has stood the test of time. And that, to me, is the highest praise you can give any brand, that 30, 40, 50 years, 80 years, 100 years later, the brand is still relevant. It speaks to a great genius in the way the brand is run. And there's no getting away. That's the test of time. The valuations can go up and down, but that consistent performance is amazing. I feel, as Sandeep said, it'll ultimately come down to addressing consumer needs. If retail, which is actually just 4 walls and racks, whether you're selling shoes or whether you're selling clothes, if it's going to be relevant to the consumer, it's going to offer the consumer something that the consumer can't get in e-commerce sitting in their living room. I'll leave you with one thought, Nagesh, that in our cities, firstly, getting out of your parking lot, losing your parking space, dealing with the traffic, the heat, arriving at a shopping center, not finding parking, going in, Why would you do all that when you can sit in the comfort of your living room with your AC on and press 2 buttons and order something? It'll be delivered. Most of these guys are going to start delivering the same day soon. They haven't already. So the question we have to ask ourselves is more, as you call them, us traditional retailers now, is how do you make traditional retail really exciting to the customer? And our plan is, in the next 2 to 3 years, we will completely reinvent what it means to be a traditional retailer. And in fact, we are going to, the idea is to give customers things that they can't get on e-commerce. And we made a list of 100 things that you can get in a physical format that you can't get on e-commerce. And our thing, it's as Sandeep said, longevity is about reinventing yourself. There are no two ways about it. You don't reinvent, you don't live. And I hope, Nagesh, when you're chairing the next conference 10 years from now, the same players are still here talking about the same things, because that'll mean we've done something right, as opposed to we haven't died out by then. We're still in the game.
Absolutely. Sandeep runs a 120-year company. You run a 50-year company.
60, boss, 60.
62. Okay, so
62.
I'm half.
I said half his age. Half his age.
So I've been in this business for 30 years. I've been in the business for 30 years, and I and Amitabh are judwa bhai, to kahin na kahin milte rehte hain. Every year we talk about this. We get these panels, but I think there are some things which are common, and I've been told to close the session in the next 5 minutes. I think some things are common. Every session we have had in the last 30 years, I think customer centricity has always come back. To say, guys, if you can understand your customer, you'll get it back. The new thing that I'm here seeing is that omni-channel is an opportunity because the customer has changed. It's not because we want to change. And third is COVID as a crisis has actually come and made a difference. In fact, somebody long time back told me, if you don't get an external crisis, as a leader, create crisis inside to keep bringing in change. Before we close, we have 5 minutes, and maybe I would like to give 1 or 2 questions to the audience. If audience has a question, keep a question, but keep it short. Yeah.
One question I have to the panel is that how much of the digital wallet disruption do you see changing in terms of especially old people getting more adaptable to digital wallet and hence bringing about a change? I want to understand that.
So the digital part of the payment system, anybody wants to take on? Will digital wallets change the way people shop? I think today, UPI, Bheem, I think digital payment is a fairly large proportion. Yeah?
Yeah. So even in supermarket, physical stores, half the payments, even for groceries, half the payments are done by non-cash. So the customer has always enjoyed the convenience of not handling cash. And I think for our income levels, thanks to lower digital access costs in India, for our income levels, we are far more digitally literate as consumers. And people take to digital ways of handling money quite seamlessly. And many brands, many pioneers in this space have really done a good work.
We also like Rokda. Yeah, today morning it says that 14 lakh crore of so-called demonetization cash has come back into the system. Yeah. I'll take one more question there, but Alvira, you have been sitting here and listening to all of us who 120 years, 60 years, 30 years. You got into this new business in the last 1.5, 2 years. What is going on in your mind listening to all of us? You have a question for anybody here? Think through. Okay, I'll catch one question and come back to you. Anybody has a question here? Anybody has a question? No, please go ahead if you have the question for yourself.
So basically, you're asking me that what do I think about these businesses?
All the discussions happening. Is there a question in your mind? Kya baat kar rahe hain? What's happening? I mean, if you have a question, I don't want to force you into a question.
I don't have a question for anybody, but I just want to say that I want my brand to live forever.
You want your brand, then the way that you have chosen the name, it will remain forever, for generations, being human, yeah. Everybody is being human here. Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. That's a smart branding to take on. Well, if nobody has any other questions, probably we'll close the session. But before I close the session, a round of applause for my guests from Switzerland. Sandeep, we are only seeing your room and the roof. यार वो lake और mountains भी दिखा दो ना हमको.
Nagesh, problem ये है कि इतनी सुबह, if you ask me to join in, I have to run away to the furthest corner so I don't wake up
I know we woke-
my wife. So I'm sitting in the attic as far as I can be from the bedroom.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. I know we woke you up at 5:45, but thank you, William. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks to our panelists here. A wonderful session. I hope you all picked up something. And thank you very much. A big round of applause for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.